What drives a person to steal $2.5 million from an armored car company? This is the question that surrounds the enigmatic figure of Heather Tallchief. In the heart of the city that never sleeps, Las Vegas, Tallchief and her partner in crime, Roberto Solis, orchestrated one of the most audacious heists the city has ever seen. Tallchief, a woman of courage or perhaps recklessness, found herself drawn into Solis's sphere of influence. In 1993, under the neon lights of the Vegas Strip, they executed their daring plan. The armored car company, oblivious to the impending storm, was their target. A staggering $2.5 million vanished into the desert night, leaving a trail of questions and disbelief. But what seemed like a perfect crime was only the beginning of Tallchief's story. This crime would lead Tallchief on a 12-year journey of hiding, regret, and ultimately, redemption. Imagine disappearing off the face of the earth for 12 long years. How does one even begin to pull that off? Picture this: Heather Tallchief, fresh off one of the most audacious heists in Las Vegas history, vanishes into thin air. Not a trace, not a whisper, just gone. Under the cloak of a new identity, Tallchief was living life on the run. But this wasn't your average fugitive existence. She was raising a son, building a semblance of normalcy amidst a life that was anything but. On the surface, it was an ordinary life, but beneath it, a constant game of cat and mouse with the law. Each passing day, the weight of her secret life grew heavier, the burden of a stolen identity, the gnawing guilt of a truth unspoken. With each sunrise and sunset, the shadows of her past grew longer, her life on the run more untenable. But how long can one live in the shadows, burdened by a stolen identity and the truth? In 2005, a woman walked into a Las Vegas police station and confessed to a crime committed over a decade ago. Why surrender after so long? This question marked the beginning of a new chapter in the life of Heather Tallchief, who had been living under an alias for 12 years. Tallchief's surrender was not an act of defeat, but rather a deliberate decision born out of a desire for her son to know the truth. She sought to free herself and her son from the burdens and uncertainties of living under false identities. It was a calculated risk, but one she was willing to take for the sake of her child's future. Following her surrender, Tallchief was put on trial. The courtroom was a far cry from the life of subterfuge she had been leading. Standing before the judge, she cooperated fully with authorities, providing them with crucial information about her past actions and the whereabouts of the stolen money. Her cooperation didn't go unnoticed. The court acknowledged her efforts to make amends, marking a distinct shift in her narrative from fugitive to collaborator. However, her willingness to cooperate did not absolve her from the consequences of her actions. The court had to ensure that justice was served, setting a precedent for future cases. But even with her surrender and cooperation, what was the cost of her actions? Heather Tallchief's case is not just about a heist, it's about the consequences of manipulation and the power of redemption. After a 12-year chase, Heather faced the music. The courts took into account her cooperation with the authorities and the return of a portion of the stolen money. Hence, she received a relatively light sentence, a surprising turn of events, considering the magnitude of her crime. But let's take a step back and consider the context. Heather was under the influence of her boyfriend, Roberto Solis, a man who had himself spent almost 2 decades in prison. She was manipulated into a life of crime, a pawn in Solis's grand scheme. This aspect of her story sparked a broader discussion about the influence of romantic or manipulative relationships in the commission of crimes. It asked society to reevaluate and consider the dynamics of coercion and control often at play behind criminal acts. Heather's story also highlighted the possibility of redemption. The return of the stolen money, her surrender and cooperation, demonstrated a desire to make amends, to correct the course of her life. It shows us that people can change, that it's never too late to choose a different path. Heather Tallchief's story serves as a stark reminder that our actions are not only dictated by our own desires, but also by the influence and manipulation of others. Her legacy continues to influence our understanding of crime and redemption to this day.